Hey everyone, Adrienne here, Indiana Backyard Gardener. So I told you guys in my last video with the 8 herbs that you can plant in August that I would come back with a video on some more things that you can still be planting. So first of all, let me just say that warm crops are going to germinate faster in warm temperatures. So when you're looking at seed packages and you see that on a zucchini it says that it takes 60 days, that could be significantly less because you're direct sowing in the warm soil. Germination times are going to be better. They're going to be faster, as well as maturity dates. So your maturity date is going to be sooner and your germination time is going to be shorter. So just keep that in mind. Now, planting times are going to vary depending on your climate and how warm you still are. So the best thing to do is to succession plant. So if you don't already know when your first frost date is, you will need to find that out, okay? Because that is going to tell you how long your growing season is. Now, there are some ways to get around that. You can do cold frames, you can do hoop houses, you can do greenhouse, row covers. There are so many ways to be creative with providing protection for your plants to extend your growing season. Now, you can also be direct sowing cool crops. They will also germinate well, but the thing with cool crops is you're going to have to keep an eye on them. You're going to have to water them daily, especially if it's really hot outside, because those seedlings cannot dry out, okay? It is possible, it is very probable that you can get some collards, some kale, some Swiss chard, some leafy greens planted now, and by the time they mature, your season will be cooling off, and then they will get to that sweet, if you will, stage when the coolness starts to bring out the sweetness in your green. So the thing with cool crops is some of them will not take the heat, okay? They will bolt, they will flower, but if you have that going on, I would suggest, again, succession planting, okay? If you're not sure that they'll make it, plant some now, and then wait a week and plant some more, so that if those first plantings decide to bolt and flower, you have a second planting coming up. And if you still think it might be too warm, wait another week and then plant again, so that you can get an idea of the perfect time to direct sow those cool crops where it would still be warm enough for them to germinate and grow, but then the season will cool off just in time for them to take off. So find your sweet spot, and now is the time to do that. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to keep a journal. Like I said, watering plays a key role in the success of your direct sowing, your cool crops, as well as your warm crops. If you let those seedlings dry out, they will not make it. But keep an eye on them. Try to put those cooler crops in some of the more shady areas of your garden. If you have some shade, provide some shade for those crops. You can also do some makeshift shade. There's all types of ways to create shade for your garden. All right, so here's a list, and it's not, you know what I mean, this is not an exclusive list, but this is a list of some things that you can still be planting in August. You want to try to focus on varieties that are going to mature quickly. So things that are under 70 days, let's say. because as it stands right now, I'm in the middle of August. My first frost date is not till somewhere in the 20s of October. Okay, so I still have at least 2 months, which is a whole 60 days before my first frost. But the falls here have been pretty warm the last few years, and even in November we've had 70 degrees. So I can almost, calculate in my mind that it will be a little bit longer before I will get some of those really cold temperatures. But I will be ready to protect those plants if I have to. You see what I'm saying? So we might get some spotty nights where the temperatures can fall, and that's where you'll have to keep an eye on them and provide some protection for those plants that are frost tender or don't survive well in the cold. All right, so let's get started. Some of the ones that I am going to be planting, I've already put out some southern giant collards. All right, this is a heirloom variety, and it says that it's 2.5 months to maturity. But like I said, in the warmer temperatures, they germinate faster and they grow faster. And these are heat tolerant, so they will do fine. So I did do some of those. I'm going to also do some bunching onions. Okay, those are 60 days to harvest, and I plan on spreading these out throughout my garden. Spinach. I'm going to definitely have to provide some shade for the spinach, but I'm going to do this in succession plantings. I'll do some this week, and then I'll do some more next week, and so on and so forth. The maturity date on this one is 40 days, and the maturity date on this one is 45 to 70 days. And that 70 days all depends on germination. So with it being warm, it should germinate well. You can't go wrong with Swiss chard, okay? I've got some rainbow chard here, and then I've got some ruby red chard, and this is 55 to 60 days. So I definitely have enough time to put this in. And the thing about chard is it does so good in the cold, and it does so good in heat. I've got some 1,000 head kale that I'm gonna put out. All right. This is definitely frost hardy. Kale is a beast when it comes to frost and freezing temperatures. So this is going to go in. And then also I've got some all-top turnips. I'm not fond of turnips particularly, but I love the greens. So these are 50 days, and I'm going to do all-top turnips. All right. I've also got these ones. I might wait just a little while longer. I've got some Asian cabbage. I've got 2 different types of pak choi. All right, one of them is 45 days, and the other one is a little bit longer. It says 60 days. But again, that's all dependent on the germination time. Let's see. Okay, so mustards. Mustards are another one that don't like a lot of heat. They will bolt and flower quickly. So mustards, I probably, just like spinach, I will have to do succession plantings. So I'll plant some one week, and then I'll wait and plant some another week. These ones are the old-fashioned mustards, and those are 45 days. And then these are the red giant mustards, and those are 40 days. All right. So there's still so many opportunities for you guys to keep on planting. I did not have any success with my Armenian cucumbers, so I am going to go ahead and plant some more of those. I still have time for cucumbers. I'm going to sporadically spread out beans throughout my garden. These are 50 to 55 days, which, like I said, could be shorter. So these are top crops, and then I've got some royalty purple pods, which say 55 to 60 days. Either way, I have time. So these are going in sporadically throughout the garden. You also have time for things like flowers. So nasturtiums are good. I've got some zinnias. Zinnias are beautiful and they will add a beautiful pop of color to your fall garden. So let me look at my list here. Carrots. I've got carrots on the list. Carrots will germinate so good in the warm, but you have to make sure that they stay watered. Okay, you have to make sure that they have to, and try to keep them cool. I said turnips, radishes. Radishes are good. Bush beans I've got. Zucchini, I mentioned zucchini. Also some small varieties of squash like scallop squash or round squash. Get creative. There are tons of varieties to choose from. Cucumbers I mentioned, cantaloupe, and small melons. You can do things that are under 70 days, okay? Kales, collards, bunching onions, I said all those. Swiss chard, I said that. Cilantro, cilantro is one that will germinate quickly, but it also will bolt quickly. So get yourself a slow bolt variety, or like I said, succession planting. Plant some now, plant some more, plant some more. Can't have enough cilantro, right? Parsley is another one. And parsley does so good in the cold. So if you get parsley started now, parsley does very well in the cold temperatures. And sometimes, if depending on how mild your winters are, parsley will come back. Chives, fennel, arugula. Okay, so arugula bolts really fast. Give arugula plenty of shade and keep it cool. But arugula is another good one. Asian greens and cabbages, I mentioned. Lettuces, you can do some heat tolerant lettuces, or you can keep them cool and in the shade and keep harvesting them before they flower. And then eventually you'll get the growth with the cooler temperatures, and then it'll sweeten up. Now, you can do short varieties, short maturity date varieties, I should say, of cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels. You can do all of those. And I plan on doing, I'm gonna do this broccoli Miranda that I got from the Ukraine. These are the purple broccolis. I'm gonna do those. I'm gonna do the Waltham 29 broccoli. And then I'm also gonna do the Calabrese broccoli, which is, these are both right around 70 days to harvest. And I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to make it, you know, get it to survive through those temperatures. Like I said, I don't foresee it getting really cold really soon. Celery is a good one you can plant now too. It does need shade and you will have to keep it moist. Celery is somewhat difficult to germinate. Some celery varieties need light to germinate, so you want to barely cover them in the soil and make sure you definitely keep it moist. But once it gets started, it will take off and it will do so good, especially in the cooler temperatures. So by the time it matures and it gets cool and it cools off, that celery will do wonders. Kohlrabi's a good one. Endive is good if you prefer endive rather than lettuce. Some butter crunch lettuce is good. Basil, you can still get some basil in. Peas, oh yes, I can't forget about peas because I am going to be throwing peas everywhere. I love those sugar snap peas, and they did really good this spring for me, so I'm hoping they'll do good again this fall. Now, I have a small list of flowers if you're interested in what type of flowers you can be growing. So I did mention the zinnias, and I did mention the nasturtiums. So nasturtiums are about 60 days, zinnias maybe 30 or less. You can do some short dwarf varieties of sunflowers, which are, you know, anywhere from 40, 50, maybe even 60 days. Calendula is about 50 days, and in this warm weather, it's even sooner. Cosmos are about 75 days. Bachelor buttons are 65 days. Amaranth is 65 days. A Mexican sunflower is 80 days. But if you're in the cooler, if you're in the little bit you know, like around zone 7, you probably have time to do some Mexican sunflowers. And also petite marigolds. Petite marigolds only take about 45 days. So that is a list for you guys. I hope you guys have found something to consider to plant. Keep on planting, keep on going. When you're removing some stuff, tomatoes are dying. Peppers are probably doing real good right now, but some of the tomatoes are probably beat up and need to come out, or have disease, or are just done producing. Take those out and put some beans in. Take those tomatoes out and put some kale in, or some collards, or maybe even some cucumber. Who knows? The possibilities are very, there's a large list of possibilities. Okay, guys? Don't stop planting. Keep going, keep growing, and until next time, the more you know, the more you grow. Bye, guys.